Thank you. So, how many of you already know my story?
Yeah, this is ridiculous. Thank you. I didn't reconvert.
I don't have a new story to tell, so I wish I'd known that all of you already knew it would still be in the bed. This is extremely, extremely painful for me. How many of you have seen me preaching the Easter sermon in Austin, Texas, just a few weeks ago? All right, well, see, those of you who've seen that, you really shouldn't be here because I said I wasn't going to do this anymore. This was actually planned months in advance of Austin, and so lo and behold, Amanda Brown speaks to Amanda Knief and says, I know what you should do. You should have Jerry do a Sunday morning service in Austin. So it's actually this meeting that set me up to do that meeting that we've already done. So I'm not going to repeat most of what I have to say, which would be, this sucks and we should never meet again at 9 o'clock in the morning. But anyway, way back then, Amanda said, what would you like to speak about? And I said, the publisher is pretty insistent that as much as I can, I put out the word that I've got the book coming out in June. I said, just title it Hope After Faith. So, with that being said, there's a book coming out at the end of June. It's titled Hope After Faith. There's some previews down here, a few cards, and if you'd be so kind to sign and give me your email address on this clipboard after everything is over with. Now, with that being said, I may preach just a little bit. Amen. But here's the reason why. I don't know anything else to do but to always talk about where I'm at. And where I'm at right now is dealing with the movement and dealing with being involved in the movement much more than I'm dealing with my atheism. A lot of times people will ask me, they'll be like, what's it like now that you're out? And they want me to say, it's chocolate-covered cherries and champagne every day. I'm free from religion. This is wonderful. I haven't felt any of that yet. And there's two major reasons that I haven't felt this jubilation that other people seem to talk about on a regular basis whenever they're referring to their freedom from religion. And the first reason why is because this has been going on for me for a very, very long time. This didn't just happen back in October of 2011. That was just one of the final steps that brought it to the world's attention. This has been going on for me for 25 years. It's important for you to understand. I don't want you to be disappointed with the book. As you read it, you're going to follow with me throughout my entire, quote unquote, spiritual journey. I don't feel like there's been a major change. I really would like to express to the entire world, and hopefully through any documentaries or YouTube, I'll be able to do so. Everyone says to me, what made this change? Where did this change come from? What's it like since you've made this change? There is no change. This is me. This is what I've been doing for 25 years, seeking the truth. It just so happens that once I got to this place of understanding of reality, that it was so obscure to so many people in the religious mainstream thoughts, and it was so different than the people that I had been associated with, that to them it looks like I suddenly made this huge left-hand immediate car crashing turn. But it's not that at all. Instead, what it is, and you see it in the book, page after page, it's this very complicated human story of a person trying to find themselves and trying to fine-tune their understanding of reality for the purpose of fitting in to reality a little better. And the reason I bring that up is to say this. I've yet to throw a party and say, this is how great it is to be out of religion, because I'm still growing. Not only have I yet to throw the party in the celebration of being free from religion, but actually freeing myself from that very last phase of my life has been extremely devastating. And it's hard for me to talk about how great it is to no longer believe in Yahweh whenever who I really serve is the bankruptcy trustee. There's a new God in my life. And if I don't pay him every month, I promise you, his judgment will be swift and painful. Not only will I be staying on your couch during a conference, you may have to put up with my sorry ass for months at a time. And so I've yet to be there. I immediately, as I completely took that last step and freed myself from this imaginary relationship with Jesus. At the same time, I was losing my very real relationship with my wife and some of my family members. So I apologize that when you ask me these questions and you're looking for a smile and a celebration of what it's like to be free from religion, that instead all I can tell you is that I'm surviving. And I'm rebuilding, and I'm regrouping. But there's something about that I am loving. Because what it allows me to do is it allows me to meet you right where you're at. It allows me, whenever you catch me in the back corner during the conference, and you begin to tell me about losing your relationship because of moving or graduating from your faith, it allows me to look you in the eyes, even if I got to step up on something. It allows me to look you in the eyes and to also look you straight into the heart and tell you that it's going to be okay. Because if I'm okay, then you're going to be okay. Because what we now know beyond the shadow of a doubt is that I do not possess any magical or supernatural powers. And anything I can survive, you can survive. Several years ago, everyone in the world learned about Hurricane Katrina because of New Orleans. Just a few weeks later, Hurricane Rita passed right over the top of our home. The day before it was supposed to deliver its impact, we had a decision to make, and we thought that we would go to where my wife was from, a little town called Pitkin, just maybe 30 or 45 minutes to the east of my home. But looking at the map, we thought if we went over there, we would be safe from some of those western side bands that slam our state so often. So we made this calculated move. We got out into the middle of the woods, out literally what you would consider to be in the middle of nowhere, and we waited out the storm, and night fell. And as night fell and the winds picked up, the darkness, the unknown, intensified every single noise. Every bang upon the side of the house, every little ruffle and rudder that began to move somewhere within the structure of the home was magnified. And fear was growing and abounding throughout the entire night. No one in the family was able to sleep. Several of us had made our way over there to ride out this storm. Have you ever been in a storm like that? A few of you have. What's important to understand is you don't have to have been in a physical storm to relate, because the real point is about life storms. The real point is about that life storms come, and the less you know and the darker it is in your life at that moment, the scarier it is. And the louder every bang seems to be. Somehow in all of the not knowing, in all of the misinformation, the fear gets intensified and sometimes seems to be overwhelming. That's how I've lived for the last year. I've been under a Hurricane Rita for the last 14 to 15 months, seemingly with no daylight in sight. And not knowing how we would survive financially has just intensified the fear. Not knowing if relationships would be reconnected has just intensified the fear. Not knowing if somehow I can create a career out of this silly thing that I'm doing in front of you this morning at 9 o'clock in the morning in Lawrence, Kansas. Not knowing if I'll ever be able to draw a paycheck again. That darkness has intensified the fear. Not even knowing what the hell is going on in this atheist movement has intensified the fear. It seems like y'all waited on a certain amount of excitement. Y'all waited until I got involved. Would have been cool if you'd done it sooner or done it a little later. But instead, it's another fear, it's another darkness, it's another confusion. Where's the movement going? What's happening? Where do I stand? What can I say? What can I get away with? Now, literally, on Twitter and on Facebook, I hold my phone in my hand and I read every single thing I post at least 50 times, thinking that it will last forever. Do you do that? Thinking it will last forever and just I'm one screenshot away from this being in somebody's newsletter or on the top of somebody's blog. And it's unknown and it's scary. It's fearful. It's dark. There's not enough information. and it makes the storms of our lives seem that much greater. Obviously, that particular hurricane, that particular storm, no matter how afraid we were, and no matter how loud the banging against the side of the house was, and no matter how strong the winds blew, in that particular storm, we survived. And we watched the day break. And we saw another 9 o'clock in the morning come to pass. That has allowed me to know that this storm will also pass. That there will be another daybreak. There will be yet another day for the movement. There'll be another day for me. And regardless of your situation, regardless of your problems, without any divine intervention, another day will come to pass for you as well. And the light of a new day will lessen your fears. And it will bring new information. And new information will empower you to make better decisions. And you will ride out the next storm because it's coming, it's inevitable. You will ride out the next storm better than you rode out the last storm because you'll be smarter. And you'll even be more courageous from your experience. So what I want to tell you this morning is dealing with my storm over the last year and trying to survive it. It's a gift. It's a gift to me. It's a gift that life has given me that I now want to share with you. And as you approach me in these corridors and hallways and the tables get turned, and instead of you looking for advice, instead you come to me and you share your encouragement and you share your situation and you share how you survived your storm, then you're sharing a gift with me. And we're building relationships and we're building a community. And we will ride this out. Anything and any change that the atheist movement goes through, we will ride out. And we'll be better for it. Any rejection, hear me and hear me clearly, any rejection that you are experiencing because of your determination to stand up for the real you, you will ride it out. You will survive it. You will be stronger, you will be better, and your gift will make us stronger and make all of us better. Can I get a Darwin? Please understand, this isn't about math. This isn't even about theology. This isn't about philosophy. All those subjects are important and they're fundamental to what we're doing and how we do it. But what this is about you looking yourself in the mirror. Maybe even right before the lights go out in the storm of your life, and seeing the confidence and the reality within your own eyes to know that you are strong enough to change and shape the future for the better. That's what you're doing. With every single conference that you attend, you're making the future better for somebody else. Every time that you stand up for yourself, every time that you face the complication of dealing with real relationships, we'll have questions and answers here in just a moment, and if I don't know the answer, I'll make it up. We'll have that in a moment, and I wish that I had clear answers and that the other speakers had clear answers to these very complicated situations called relationships. How do I tell my mom? How do I tell my dad? How do I make them love me again now that we no longer share religion? How do we do this? How do we do that? What's the best way? How can we avoid the storm? I don't know. The storm is bigger than us on the outside, but it's not bigger than us on the inside. So, enjoy my gift of complication, and I'll enjoy your gift in return. Thank you. So a very quick reading. I'll paraphrase and possibly skip around just a little bit, but this is dedicated to Matt in the back. My reevaluation of what had been my most cherished moments in my life of faith, my conversations with God, were both energizing and also frightening. I was feeling more in control of my life, particularly when it came to the panic attacks that were plaguing me. Yet I believed that I could still have a deep and intimate relationship with God. When a minister named Charles Pierce, I'm sure he'll appreciate this, who had a reputation within the United Pentecostal movement for presiding over a healing ministry without peer, had a revival at the United Pentecostal Church in Leesville, I felt that I had to attend the revival in order to reevaluate and to relive my own revival experiences. Arriving at the United Pentecostal Church on a cool Sunday morning in the early spring of 1999, yes, that's how old I am, I took in its tall cathedral ceilings, its white molding and color-coordinated pews and carpet, with a mix of disdain and envy. Its clean, sparse design reminded me of a funeral home. And I had long felt whenever I walked into expensively decorated sanctuaries that it was wasteful of the Lord's money. At the same time, I was envious and desperately wanted to be a part of the upper class of Pentecostalism and could be just as harsh in judgment when I visited a poor church with an old squeaky sound system or an unpaved parking lot. But when Brother Pierce, a slender, square-shouldered, middle-aged minister who wore a clean white suit, began the service and ministered to the congregants individually, I was far from impressed. Brother Pierce addressed churchgoers with a very vague and general diagnosis of their problems. Sister, are you feeling ill? Brother, are you disappointed with your job? He ministered from the distance of the stage, which only added an even more impersonal feel to the proceedings. About halfway through the service, however, Brother Pierce walked down the small set of stairs from the stage into the aisles. To my horror, it seemed as though he was walking directly towards me. I thought, God's using Brother Pierce to chastise me. I thought nervously to myself about how doubtful I'd become and how far I'd moved from my evangelizing days. To my great relief, because I'm a selfish person, Brother Pierce passed by my seat to focus on a slender man in his early 60s with shaggy facial hair who was seated in a pew behind me. The man had a disheveled look about him, and he wore a tattered suit jacket that appeared to be about 30 years old with threads poking out from it. There were deep stress lines in his face. He was, as the old saying goes, rode hard and put up wet. When Brother Pierce stood 3 feet from the man, he asked the man to stand up. The man rose from the pew and stood silently before Brother Pierce. Let's talk about your relationship with God, Brother Pierce said. I know that you've been closer to God than you are now. The man nodded his head in agreement. Yes, Brother Pierce, he murmured. I know you've some bad habits, that you've gone to smoking. Brother Pierce continued, bringing another nod of the head from the man and another yes. An intensely serious look came over Brother Pierce's face. Yes, indeed, you've gone to smoking, and you are smoking Pall Malls. Just then, the man's eyes became as big as saucers. He opened his well-worn jacket and with his right hand rustled through an inside pocket and thrust out a pack of Pall Malls for Brother Pierce and the church to behold, bringing an ecstatic, ah, which rose from the congregation and echoed throughout the sanctuary. In those first few moments after the Pall Malls revelation, I felt that I should get on my knees right then and there and pray and perhaps even bow before God Almighty. But as the worshiper slid the Pall Malls back into his ruffled suit pocket, I grew suspicious of Brother Pierce's ministering, even though a part of me was shouting, screaming, and berating the naysayer inside of me. Move on! Staying my nerves, I realized that what had unsettled me about Brother Pierce was that his ministry seemed all too much like a parlor trick. This was far from the personal dialogue with God that I'd been seeking when I attended the revival. Belief, I thought to myself then, had to be larger and greater in spirit than a magic trick. Love you, man. So, I think we got some time for questions.
Yes, we do. Plenty of time. Any
I'm
questions?
sorry I had to just preach ad-lib to all of you folks. I really thought that I was coming here just to do this like little 10-minute pep rally, and it wasn't until I saw the program last night I realized I had 45 minutes to kill. So we could have all got here at 9:30 and we would have been better for it.
Yeah, Keith.
I'll let y'all choose. And
I was multitasking. I'm curious about your relationships with, you spoke about your wife and friends and family before you left your faith. Are there any in that original friend group of interpersonal relationships that you've managed to maintain a relationship with or are supportive of you?
Yes, there is. There's two important factors of that. One is I've got about four friends that have just simply stood by me regardless. They've just said, we love you, we've been brothers forever, or whatever, and they've just tolerated. And the reason that I hold them so high is they have not added this extremely vile, disgusting, and heartbreaking phrase at the end of their acceptance, which is, I love you anyway. And so I hold them in high esteem. So there are a few, and at least two of them are from my church days. One of them was actually an ex-church member. So I do have some. The other side of this is that I just refuse to let anybody go. I just refuse. I mean, you're going to shake my hand. You're going to look me in the eye, and if you're going to reject me, you have to do it. You just have to do it. And so yes, there are a few, but not that many. Not that many. I've been really very surprised and in some ways hurt by how few people have even bothered to contact me. They just simply, unfriended and moved on.
I mean, obviously, your life has been a whirlwind since making this transition, but could you speak to maybe what your plans, goals over the next 5 years are? Like, where do you see yourself helping this movement?
Are you saying you think I'll be alive in 5 years? I better start eating better. Honestly, Adam, I can't see beyond June the 25th. But the reason for that is because there's so much in the book that is related to my hometown, that's even related to family. I mean, I'm still in my home. I'm still in my home in DeRidder, Louisiana. And so I know it's hard-headed, I know it's crazy, but at some point, this craziness has to stop. Everybody who gets into something when they're 17 and grows out of it when they're 42 or 43 shouldn't have to pick up and move. I mean, eventually somebody's not going to move. So things are so screwed up with me, it might as well be me. And so for me, I can't see beyond when the book comes out because I may have to move. So I'm literally making no plans. And there's some down here when you get a chance. Okay.
I had the good fortune of growing up without having religion inflicted on me. So if this question comes out of ignorance, please forgive me.
If my answer comes out of ignorance, please forgive me.
Okay. Part of my impression of what it is a preacher does is to develop community.
Yes.
The bigger share of what they do, of course, is to spread fear and to demonize around God and that sort of thing.
Well, I would disagree with that to a degree, but that's fine. Go ahead.
Like I say, this is my perception.
Here.
Over here on the left somewhere is the minister's responsibility to build community.
Yes.
The free thought community doesn't really need any of this right-hand stuff.
Absolutely, right.
We're done with the fear. We're done with the dread.
Certainly.
But we very much need the left-hand stuff. We
Right.
very much need the community. Yeah. I've been watching the program under which you and other ministers have come clean from your faith and joined the rational world. My question is, are you and your peers going to be able to help us on the left-hand side? and help us grow the community that hopefully you had good success doing in the Christian world and will have better success over here.
I hope so. I think that's an excellent question. I hope that we can. I really do. You know, it's a little iffy. I think that as far as using people like myself, I think I'm having to break some ice right now and test the waters and see what is acceptable. You know, how involved, how preachery can I be? And that will say a lot for the next person, you know. There are ministers, you know, Mike Ouse down in Houston, you know, has a congregation. And so I think they're working on building community. You know, I'm going to be honest with you. Here's the thing. What we say, this is going to sound really strange, so just stay with me for a second. What we all have a tendency to say when we leave religion is that we miss the community. You know, I mean, almost everybody. In recovering from religion, you just hear that so much. I think we may be speaking in terms that are far too general, okay? Because what we're really missing are our loved ones. What we're really missing are our dear friends. And as much as I love all you people, beautiful people, and even if we all stay tight for the next 42 years, now that Adam has horrified me and told me I'll live that long, even if we stay tight for the next 42 years, when I think about people I lost from the last 42 years, there's nothing that any of these relationships can ever do to completely replace that. That is a broken mirror that will always be broken. Does that make sense? You know, I mean, I'm not saying I'll think about it every day for the next 42 years. So, in my mind, we've got community. I mean, how many of you have already seen me already once this year? I know your faces. You know my face. I mean, you know, we all sit down and I watch you all get drunk together, you know. I think there's more community than what we give ourselves credit for. It doesn't mean that we can't fine-tune it. It doesn't mean we can't take some lessons from religion and do a few things better. But if this isn't a community, if this isn't a bunch of social misfits at the moment who are hanging tight and loving each other and supporting each other, then I don't know what is. And so, you know, how good a community is in religion really depends on the church. And there's some churches suck at it. They really do. Yeah. So there's somebody with a mic.
Right here. Hi. You told us some time ago that after you came out, what surprised you most, again, I'm talking about the people in your community, was how well they took it.
Yeah.
You know, that you were sort of surprised that they weren't beating a path to your door, trying to say, Jerry, we're going to try to save you, we're going to help you through this, we'll do whatever we can. That didn't really happen.
Right.
So can you talk now, whatever it is, a year plus later, can you talk a little bit about what it's like to remain in DeRidder and still see these people that you were so deeply connected to, and now there's this tremendous divide between you guys. So what is that like socially for you at this point? Like, how do you deal with it on a day-to-day basis? How does it make you feel?
Yeah, that's very good. So here's the deal. Quite a long time ago, actually in Kansas City, I made the joke. I said, I wasn't surprised that so many people from my past suddenly thought I was going to hell. But I was very hurt at how well they were taking it. And I was. I mean, one of my fears was that when this became public, that I wouldn't ever get any sleep again. I was so egotistical as to think somebody would be banging on the door all the time. And it just didn't happen. I mean, it literally didn't happen. It's just a handful of people that have approached me over the last year plus. And so when I go into the community, when I go into, say, Walmart or wherever, when I go into the store and I see that person from across the aisle or in the other line that I know for a fact in my previous life would have made their way over to see me, whether it was because of religion and they wanted to talk to Pastor Jerry, or whether it was because of politics and they wanted to build a relationship and possibly get a pothole fixed or something. You know, when I see them and I see them no longer look at me the way that they once did, I'm just, I've been honest with y'all. It first and foremost hurts my pride. It crushes my pride. I mean, when you're 5'5", you try to build your self-esteem in any way that you can. And I was an important person in our little town. I really was. I was someone that everyone went out of their way to be nice to and to talk to. And I knew the whole time that it's because they wanted something more than likely. But it still stroked my ego, so it was cool. It was good for them. It was good for me. It was consensual, And so now to know that I literally, in their mind, have nothing to offer. I have so little to offer that they don't even need to take 3 steps to shake my hand anymore. It crushes my pride. It really crushes my pride. And then I go a step beyond that, depending on the relationship I had with them. And if I was fooled into thinking that we were friends based on something besides our religious similarities, then it breaks my heart. Because I know me. And I know that I didn't love them because of their damn doctrine. And I know that I didn't treat them kindly. And I know that I didn't go to the emergency room. I didn't visit them in the hospital. I didn't go at midnight to pray for their damn headache because I appreciated their doctrine. I did it because they were a human being and I thought they were special and I loved them. And I have been just selfish enough and immature enough to think I deserve that kind of crap back. Darwin. Let's see. We got microphones, so let's. Yeah,
I was wondering if you heard about the Sunday assembly that was starting up in the UK.
Yes, I have.
I was wondering about your thoughts about that and how people are talking about bringing it to the U.S.
I think it's awesome. I really do. It may be a layer of community that we need. That it may be some of the missing pieces that we all think are missing. I think it's great. I mean, I love church. I'm sorry. I mean, y'all can run me out of town if you want to. Let me do this one interview and then I'll leave. I don't have an axe to grind. Yeah, there's some bad and awkward stories, in my book. But I didn't leave Christianity because I hated the music, I didn't leave Christianity because I didn't like hearing people get up and, preach, like I preach. I didn't leave it because, I would have left it because of Sunday mornings, but I didn't. I liked church. I liked going to church. I liked every little part of it. So if they've got a way of doing it that atheists and secular people feel comfortable doing and are literally celebrating their lives together that way, more power to them. I just hate that the only way you can pull it off is being a comedian, apparently. So there's let's see, where's the microphone at? I'm losing. There you are.
Jerry, when I listen to you describing your community life back home now, it reminds me very much in anthropological studies of primitive communities where people are exiled in place.
Sure.
They're shunned from, they still live in the community, but nobody will look at them, no one will talk
Right.
to them, Do you ever get the sense that, you might actually be much happier starting over in a community where you are not shunned?
Sure.
You are...
Like Austin.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that'd be a good place.
All right, we're going to start a bid. Yeah. Hey, I'm sold. You just got yourself a boyfriend, sir. There's no doubt in my mind. I mean, I've been all over this country in the last year, and literally every city that I've gone into would be better than the one I'm staying in. That's not an exaggeration. There's community for me in other places. I'm just hard-headed. And I just think it has to stop. I think at some point it just has to stop. And here's my thing, and it's why I'm so intimidated about getting up and speaking at places like this. I mean, Seth is going to get up right behind me, and he is going to literally, with his silver tongue, roll out volumes of information volumes, just this beautiful storytelling that's going to have all this information. And I feel like all I can do is get up and just pose a new question. But that's what I'm doing in my community. What I like to say is, I don't think I'm the answer, but I know that I'm the question. And so every time that I go back into Walmart and I make them shake my hand and they see, that, there's not blood dripping from my hands as I, bag my groceries because I haven't killed any babies or whatever, it has to make them question. It has to, and that's the heroic side of this, okay? That's me being brave and all of that. The other side of it is, I've been so busy, I don't even understand all the ins and outs of my bankruptcy. And I filed it. I mean, everybody gets paid off in my form of bankruptcy, but I filed it in order to save my home. So I've already paid a pretty big price to stay where I'm at. And I don't even know if I can sell it. I don't know if I could get out if I wanted to. I mean, that's why I'm locked down in this mode of waiting until the 25th to see if I do need to figure out all those questions. But yes, I would be much happier somewhere else. No doubt about it. Where are you at? There you are.
Jerry, there's been a lot of talk lately about building community, and that seems to be identified in so many people's mind with church. Mm-hmm. And of course, some of us don't do that. There are those of us who absolutely loathed that part of church, and we were anxious and happy to get away from it. And we're feeling a little bit out of place in this. Can you speak to our fears if the atheist movement starts building churches and building that kind of community where we don't want to be? We like this kind of conference, intellectual community, but not that what we're talking about. And can you speak to that?
What I anticipate to happen, this is my anticipation based on, he mentioned anthropology, When I was studying anthropology, what do I know? Who am I? What do I know? But what I have had the privilege in regards to this question, the privilege that I've had is studying group dynamics for the last 25 years plus. And what I anticipate will happen is that certain groups, in order to meet the community need without feeling as if they're losing their intellectual edge, okay? Because there are some people that they can't wait for me to sit down and shut up so they can get the next lecturer up here. And I understand that, and I appreciate that. I think what we will ultimately do is we will do what churches have done. We will have 2 services. I think that will eventually become the winning solution because that's what's worked in religion, and it's worked very well. If you are in somewhat of a traditional, if you're in a very traditional church and all of a sudden the fad sweeps through Christianity where you're going to have music and have silly people like me up doing things, and a portion of the congregation decides that's what they want to do, that's the hip fun thing and it'll grow the church, but another portion of the congregation says we like it the way that it was, then you have 2 services. 1 church, 2 services. And ultimately, any social group that is going to grow and is going to be successful and get over these bumps, they always have to start specializing. You always have to specialize. That's just part of our human culture. And so, and we see that. I mean, recovering from religion is a fantastic example of that, of specializing and trying to help one very particular situation. The Clergy Project's another example of that. Secular Students Alliance is another example of that. I mean, we don't all have to meet up in the same room all the time to be community or be part of the same movement. That makes me want to say, can I get a doorway?
I just wanted to comment. I noticed most of you who are looking for community are older. Jerry mentioned a couple of groups that are primarily targeting the younger people. I did want to mention here in Kansas City, we have meetup groups. And just go on the internet and come out and meet with us.
Sure. Makes sense to me.
Any more questions? I'm sorry, questions right now. Any more? Anything for Jerry?
Is that good?
Good, okay.
The bid's currently at $10,000.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you. Oh, please don't forget to come and give me your email address and pick up some of the literature.
Okay, we've got a